All right, and the next thing we're going to talk about, kind of sticking with the subject of the economy, is the Colombian Exchange. And this is such an interesting story. Um, so, as the Europeans start trading with and getting to know this new land, we learned something that is, I find very interesting, is that there's certain foods and certain animals that are native to certain parts of the world. Okay, so say in Europe, they had never seen certain things before that grew exclusively well in the Americas. And the same was true for the Native Americans. They had never seen stuff that grew well, or animals that were raised in the rest of the world, the old world, as it is called. Getting back to the slide, things like pumpkins, tobacco, turkeys, sweet potato, squash, avocados, right? All of this stuff the Europeans had never seen before. Potatoes, tomatoes, corn, right? And these were all staple of the Native Americans' food. In Mexico and Central America, corn was maybe the most important crop. They not only ate corn on the cob, but they also would use corn to make something called masa. And then that would be used to make tortillas, and that was kind of like the bread, the starch that Native Americans from Mexico and the United States, the southern United States, used as one of their main sources of food. In South America, it was, they also ate popcorn. By the way, it's an interesting story about Native Americans. And in Mexico and in Central America, they would eat popcorn between their teeth. Who knew? But then down in South America, potatoes were the main crop. I think there was like 100 different types of potatoes that they grew in South America, which again is really interesting, not only because, potatoes are important food and good food, but in Ireland and in Russia, potatoes become their main source of food, because potatoes can be grown underground. So in these areas where it's very cold, you can grow your potatoes and they'll still survive. And we're going to find out later that at some point in Ireland, they have a potato famine where the soil gets mold or fungusy, which then caused many Irish to move to the United States, but we'll get there. Another interesting side fact, vodka is made from potatoes. And oftentimes when you think about Russia, you'll think about vodka being the main beverage, alcoholic beverage that they drink there. They had never even seen a potato before the Colombian Exchange. So when we think about this stuff, we say, oh, these are relatively new phenomenon, right? The vodka in Russia, the potatoes in Russia and Ireland and in the Northern European countries, this only happened after the Colombian Exchange. And then the Americans got all of these type of things. Really, I see it as animals being a big part of it. Cows, sheep, pigs, and horses were brought to the Americas for the first time by the Spanish, by the Europeans. They had never seen a cow or sheep or a pig or a horse. And actually, the only animal that was native to the Americas that is good to raise in captivity, to breed for milk and for meat is the llama. Right? Or maybe the alpaca also. But these aren't, but in Europe, right, the cow, the pig, the sheep, these are staples to the European diet and to the modern American diet. So these people are exchanging stuff for the first time that with each other they had never seen before. Wheat used to make bread, right? Rice, the Americans had never had before. Certain fruits, oranges, citrus fruits, bananas, all were American, all were European, and the Americans had never seen before. The Europeans brought them here. So taking a look at my slide, colonists established plantations here in the Americas, of course, to try and make money, sugar, cotton, vanilla, and other crops introduced to the Americas. And we talk about potatoes helping a population boost in Europe. And this idea here, this encomienda, was this idea the Spanish had that we can use the Native Americans as laborers on plantations. What's another word for a laborer on a plantation, which is a farm? Could it be slaves? So we're also seeing during this period that the Spanish are going to use the Native Americans as slaves on plantations. Now, one thing about the Native Americans was that they could run away and they would be, with other Native Americans, other Native American tribes. But that'll be harder on later on African slaves when they're brought here because they can't go and blend in with another tribe.